The Game of Life. Master the rules, strategies and mindset to win at life. Published by Profound Audiobook. Introduction. Life is a game you are already playing, whether you understand the rules or not. Every decision is a move, every habit is a strategy. Every relationship, opportunity, setback and sacrifice shapes the position you hold on the board. The challenge is that nobody hands you a rule book when the game begins. Some people spend years chasing goals they never consciously chose. Others react to whatever happens around them, moving from one situation to another without a clear direction. And some discover, often much later, that winning was never about having the perfect circumstances. It was about learning how to think, decide, adapt, and keep moving when circumstances were far from perfect. Winning at life does not mean becoming richer than everyone else, more successful than everyone else, or admired by everyone around you. It means understanding what matters to you, building the character to pursue it, and developing the judgment to navigate the unexpected turns along the way. In this audiobook, we will explore the rules that shape the game, the strategies that help you move forward, and the mindset that allows you to remain steady when the board changes. You will learn how to choose the game you actually want to win, define your own scoreboard, think several moves ahead, take calculated risks, protect what matters, turn losses into lessons, choose the right people, build freedom, create leverage, and master your reactions. The game is already underway. The question is not whether you will play, the question is whether you will learn to play well. Chapter 1. Choose the game you actually want to win. Before you can win at life, you have to answer a difficult question. What game are you actually playing? It sounds simple, but many people move through years of their lives without ever asking it. They work toward promotions, chase money, collect possessions, seek approval, and compare themselves with people around them, yet rarely stop to consider whether the destination is truly theirs. They may be moving quickly, but they may be moving toward a finish line they never chose. Think about how easily this happens. As a child, you are given ideas about what a successful life should look like. Study hard, get good grades, find a respectable career, earn more money, buy a nice home, build a comfortable life. None of these things are necessarily wrong. The problem begins when you accept them automatically without examining what they mean to you. A life can look impressive from the outside and still feel strangely empty from within. Imagine Caleb Whitmore, a 34-year-old commercial attorney working at a respected law firm in Chicago. Caleb has a good income, a comfortable apartment, and a career his parents proudly describe to their friends. From the outside, his life appears to be moving exactly as planned. But on quiet evenings, when the office finally becomes silent, he finds himself wondering why success feels so much like exhaustion. He eventually realizes that he has spent more than a decade climbing a ladder simply because everyone around him told him it was a good ladder to climb. The uncomfortable question is not whether he can reach the top, it is whether he wants to be there. That question matters because achievement without direction can become a very sophisticated form of distraction. You can become extremely efficient at pursuing the wrong things. You can become disciplined about a goal that does not belong to you. You can spend years becoming successful according to someone else's definition, while slowly becoming disconnected from your own values. Choosing your game does not mean abandoning ambition. It means making your ambition conscious. Perhaps you want financial independence. Perhaps you want to build a business, raise a family, master a craft, serve your community, travel, create something meaningful, or simply have greater control over your time. Your answer does not need to impress anyone. In fact, if your definition of a good life is completely different from what society celebrates, that may be a sign that you have finally started thinking for yourself. You also need to understand that every choice closes certain doors. Time spent building one career cannot simultaneously be spent building another. Money used for status cannot also be used for freedom. Attention given to endless entertainment cannot be invested in learning a valuable skill. This is not punishment. It is simply the mathematics of life. You have limited resources, so choosing what matters becomes essential. The goal, then, is not to create a perfect plan for the next 40 years. Life will change too many times for that. The goal is to decide what deserves your effort now and what kind of person you want those efforts to create. Once you know what you are playing for, decisions become clearer. You can say yes with greater conviction and no without constantly needing approval. So before you chase another goal, pause. Look at the life you are building and ask yourself a simple question. If nobody were watching, would I still want this? Your honest answer may change the direction of your life, and that is not failure. That is the beginning of playing your own game. Chapter 2. Set your own scoreboard. Once you have chosen the game you want to play, you need to decide how you will know whether you are winning. Without a scoreboard, every result becomes confusing. You can earn more money and still feel behind. You can receive praise and still feel uncertain. You can achieve a goal and immediately replace it with another one without ever experiencing satisfaction. If you do not define success for yourself, the world will gladly define it for you. Look around and you will notice how easily people borrow scoreboards from one another. A certain salary becomes proof of success. A particular house becomes proof of achievement. A job title becomes proof of importance. Followers, possessions, awards, and public recognition become numbers by which people judge their lives. There is nothing inherently wrong with any of these things. The danger comes when you begin treating them as universal measurements of a life well lived. Imagine playing a game where you don't know how points are awarded. You might spend hours doing something that looks impressive, only to discover that it had nothing to do with winning. Life can work the same way. You can become incredibly successful at accumulating things you never truly wanted. You can become wealthy but have no time. You can become respected professionally but disconnected from the people you love. You can become physically comfortable while mentally restless. You can become admired by strangers while privately disappointed in yourself. Your scoreboard needs to include more than achievements that can be displayed. Ask yourself what you want your life to feel like when nobody else is looking. Do you want freedom over your time, strong relationships, financial stability, intellectual growth, excellent health, meaningful work, peace of mind, the ability to help your family, the opportunity to create something that outlives you? These are not inferior goals simply because they cannot always be photographed or announced. A useful scoreboard also measures direction, not just destination. You may not have financial freedom yet, but perhaps you are saving consistently and reducing unnecessary debt. You may not have mastered your profession, but perhaps you are becoming more capable every year. Your relationships may not be perfect, but perhaps you are becoming more present, honest, and dependable. Progress matters because life is not a single event. It is a long series of moves. This is why comparison can become so destructive. When you compare your life to someone else's highlight reel, you are often comparing two completely different games. Someone may be trying to maximize income while you are trying to maximize freedom. Someone may value public recognition while you value privacy. Someone may want an ambitious corporate career while you want to build a small business that gives you control over your schedule. There is no universal scoreboard that makes one life automatically superior to another. Of course, this does not mean you should lower your standards. Quite the opposite. A personal scoreboard should challenge you. It should make you accountable for becoming better. The difference is that your standards should come from deliberate values rather than social pressure. You might decide that winning means becoming financially responsible, physically capable, emotionally steady, professionally excellent, and deeply connected to the people you care about. That is a demanding scoreboard, but it is yours. Your scoreboard should also help you recognize invisible victories. Saying no to an unnecessary purchase can be a win. Keeping a promise to yourself can be a win. Walking away from an unhealthy relationship can be a win. Spending an evening with your family instead of working late can be a win. Starting again after a disappointing failure can be a win. These moments rarely attract applause, but they shape the person you become. And remember, your scoreboard can change. What matters at 25 may not matter at 45. A season of building may require different priorities from a season of raising children, caring for family, creating a business, or seeking greater simplicity. Changing your definition of success is not inconsistency. Sometimes it is evidence that you have grown, so decide what you are measuring, decide what deserves to count. Then stop borrowing someone else's scoreboard. Because the moment you define what winning means to you, you stop competing in a race you never agreed to enter. You begin making decisions with greater clarity. And when the world tells you that you are falling behind, you will have something far more powerful than its approval, your own definition of progress. Chapter 3. Make your next move count. Life rarely gives you the luxury of knowing exactly what to do. Sometimes you will have a clear goal but no clear path. Sometimes an opportunity will disappear without warning. Sometimes you will find yourself in circumstances you never expected, surrounded by problems you did not create. In those moments, the most useful question is not, "Why is this happening to me?" It is, "Given where I am right now, what is my best next move?" That question changes everything. It takes you away from helplessness and brings you back to action. You may not control the economy, another person's behavior, your past decisions, or every obstacle standing in your way. But there is almost always something within your reach. You can make a call, learn a skill, apologize, save money, apply for the opportunity, leave the wrong environment, start the difficult conversation, wake up tomorrow and try again. Consider Jared Holloway, a 43-year-old independent auto shop owner whose business has been struggling after several long-term customers moved away. Jared spends weeks frustrated by circumstances he cannot change. Eventually he realizes that waiting for his old customer base to return is not a strategy. He begins studying where his remaining customers come from, improves his online presence, reconnects with local businesses, and introduces services that solve problems his competitors have been ignoring. Nothing changes overnight, but his situation begins changing because his behavior changes. Notice what happened. Jared did not magically gain control of his circumstances. He simply stopped treating his circumstances as the end of the story. He looked at the position he was in and asked what move was available. That is a powerful habit because life is often less about choosing your starting position and more about responding intelligently to the position you have been given. You can do the same thing with almost any problem. If you are unhappy with your career, your next move may be learning a valuable skill rather than immediately quitting. If you are struggling financially, your next move may be understanding your expenses and increasing your income rather than simply worrying about money. If a relationship is damaged, your next move may be an honest conversation. If you have wasted the last year, your next move is not to recover the lost year. It is to stop wasting the next one. There is another reason the next move matters. Thinking about your entire future can become overwhelming. You may look at a massive goal and convince yourself that you are too far away. A person who wants to become financially independent may think about the enormous amount of money required and feel defeated before beginning. A person who wants to become healthier may imagine months of difficult change and decide it is easier not to start. But the future is built through small moves made in the present. You don't have to solve your entire life today. You have to improve the position you are in. This does not mean acting recklessly. A good next move is not always a dramatic one. Sometimes it is gathering information. Sometimes it is waiting. Sometimes it is admitting that your previous approach was wrong. Sometimes the smartest move is to do nothing until you understand the situation better. Action matters, but intelligent action matters more. You should also become careful about blaming the past. Your previous decisions may have created your current circumstances, but continuing to punish yourself for them will not improve your position. Learn from them, accept them, and then move. Regret can teach you something, but it becomes useless when you keep revisiting the same mistake without changing your behavior. There will always be things you cannot control. That is not a weakness in the system. It is part of the game. Your responsibility is to identify the part of the board where you still have influence and play that position well. So when life becomes confusing, Don't demand that it reveal the entire path. Look closer. What can you do today? What conversation can you have? What decision can you make? What skill can you develop? What problem can you solve? What small move would make tomorrow slightly better than today? Make that move, then make the next one. A meaningful life is rarely transformed by one spectacular decision. More often, it changes because a person learns to make one intelligent move after another, especially when the circumstances are difficult. Your power is not found in controlling the entire game. It is found in refusing to waste the move that is in front of you. Chapter 4. Think 3 moves ahead. A decision rarely ends when you make it. It creates consequences, and those consequences create more consequences. What looks like a small choice today can quietly shape your position months or even years from now. That is why one of the most valuable skills you can develop is the ability to look beyond the immediate moment and ask, what happens next? Think about a chess player. A strong player does not move a piece simply because the move looks good. They consider what the opponent might do, what position that creates, and what opportunities or dangers appear afterward. Life is obviously not a chessboard, and people are not pieces you can control. But the principle still applies. Good decisions require you to look beyond the first move. You can see this everywhere. Spending money feels good today, but what happens when the bill arrives? Staying up late may give you a few extra hours of entertainment, but what happens when you have to perform the next morning? Avoiding a difficult conversation may protect your comfort today, but what happens when the problem becomes larger? Accepting every opportunity may feel ambitious, but what happens when your schedule becomes so crowded that you cannot do anything exceptionally well? Thinking ahead does not mean becoming obsessed with predicting the future. You cannot know everything that will happen. It means becoming more aware of consequences. Before making an important decision, pause and ask yourself 3 questions. What happens if I do this? What happens after that? And where could this eventually lead me? Those questions can reveal problems that excitement often hides. Consider your career. You might accept a job because it offers a higher salary. That sounds like a clear win, but if the position requires a schedule that prevents you from developing valuable skills, damages your health, or leaves no time for the people you care about, the immediate gain may carry a hidden cost. The better question is not simply, what does this give me? It is, what kind of future does this choice create? The same principle applies to relationships. One angry sentence can feel satisfying for 10 seconds and create resentment for 10 years. One honest conversation can feel uncomfortable for an hour and prevent years of misunderstanding. A decision to stay silent may seem peaceful, while a decision to speak respectfully may create temporary tension but lead to greater trust. The immediate emotional reward is not always the same as the long-term result. Thinking 3 moves ahead also helps you recognize the difference between a solution and a temporary escape. Imagine you are struggling with debt. Borrowing more money may remove the pressure for a few weeks, but if the habits that created the debt remain unchanged, the problem simply moves forward. A real solution changes the pattern, not merely the symptoms. But be careful not to take this principle too far. You can become so focused on future consequences that you stop acting altogether. No decision comes with a perfect map. If you demand complete certainty before moving, you may spend your entire life standing still. Thinking ahead should improve your judgment, not become another form of fear. There is also a powerful question you can ask when making major choices. What will this decision make easier later? A healthy routine makes future health easier. Saving money makes future choices easier. Learning a valuable skill makes future opportunities easier. Building trust makes future relationships easier. Keeping your promises to yourself makes future discipline easier. Good decisions often create conditions that make other good decisions more likely. The opposite is also true. Small compromises can create momentum in the wrong direction. One unnecessary purchase becomes a habit of spending. One ignored responsibility becomes a pattern of avoidance. One dishonest explanation makes the next lie easier. The first move may be small, but the direction it creates can become significant. Your future is being shaped by these seemingly ordinary choices. You do not need to predict exactly where your life will be 5 or 10 years from now. You simply need to become more aware of the direction your current decisions are creating. So before you make your next important move, slow down long enough to look beyond it. Ask what it creates, what that creates, and where the path might lead. You cannot see the entire board, but you can learn to look farther ahead. And sometimes, seeing just 3 moves ahead is enough to change the game. Chapter 5. Bet on yourself before the odds change. There comes a point in almost every meaningful pursuit when you have to move without having a guarantee. You can prepare, study, save, practice, and gather information, but eventually the moment arrives when preparation has to become action. You have to step forward before you know exactly how everything will turn out. That is where betting on yourself begins. Betting on yourself does not mean acting recklessly or believing that success is somehow guaranteed. It means being willing to invest your effort, time, courage, and attention into your own potential. It means accepting that uncertainty is part of the price of doing something worthwhile. If you wait until every risk disappears, you may wait forever. Think about how often opportunity hides behind discomfort. You might know that you need to apply for a better position, start a business, learn a difficult skill, publish your work, move to a new city, or finally have an honest conversation. Yet your mind immediately produces reasons to delay. What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if I am not ready? What if someone else is better? These questions sound practical, but sometimes they are simply fear wearing the clothes of logic. Consider Maya Prescott, a 31-year-old medical equipment sales representative who has spent several years thinking about starting a specialized consulting business. She has experience, industry knowledge, and contacts, but she keeps telling herself that she needs one more certification, one more year of savings, and one more sign that the timing is right. Eventually, she realizes that preparation has become a comfortable hiding place. She doesn't abandon her job impulsively. Instead, she starts testing her idea on evenings and weekends, speaks with potential clients, studies the market, and gradually builds something before making a larger commitment. That distinction matters. Courage is not the absence of preparation. Courage is what happens when preparation has taken you as far as it can, and you still have to act. You can reduce risk, but you cannot eliminate uncertainty. Every worthwhile opportunity contains some unknown element. You should also understand that betting on yourself does not always mean making a dramatic leap. Sometimes the bet is small. You spend an hour every evening learning a skill that could change your career. You create your first product before you feel completely qualified. You contact someone you admire and ask a thoughtful question. You begin exercising even though you have failed at it before. You save your first meaningful amount of money. You write the first page of the book you have been thinking about for years. Small bets matter because they produce evidence. Instead of wondering whether you are capable, you begin finding out. You discover what works, what doesn't, what you enjoy, what you need to improve, and what opportunities actually exist. Confidence often grows after action, not before it. There will be times when your bet does not pay off. You may launch something that fails. You may apply and get rejected. You may choose an opportunity that turns out to be wrong. That does not automatically mean you made a foolish decision. Sometimes a good decision produces a disappointing outcome because circumstances were unfavorable. The purpose of taking a calculated risk is not to guarantee success. It is to give yourself access to possibilities that staying safe would have closed. At the same time, don't confuse self-belief with stubbornness. Betting on yourself means believing you can learn, adapt, and improve. It does not mean refusing to listen to evidence. If your approach is failing, change the approach. If the market says no, learn why. If a skill is missing, develop it. If the original plan no longer makes sense, redesign it. The person you are betting on is not the person you are today. You are betting on your ability to become better. There is a cost to never taking the chance. You may remain comfortable, but you will always wonder what might have happened. Years later, the greater regret may not be failure. It may be knowing that fear made your decisions for you. So prepare seriously. Think carefully. Understand the risks. But when the moment comes, don't demand certainty from life before you move. Take the step. Give yourself a chance to become the person your current circumstances cannot yet reveal. Because sometimes the biggest opportunity in front of you is not an opportunity waiting for you to discover it. It is the opportunity to finally discover what you are capable of. Chapter 6. Guard the moves that matter most. Your time is limited, but your attention is even more precious. Every day, countless things compete for it. Messages arrive, notifications appear, people ask for your help, news demands your reaction, entertainment waits for your attention. Small tasks multiply until your day is full, yet somehow the things that matter most remain unfinished. This is one of the quiet ways a life can become busy without becoming meaningful. The problem is not that you have too little time, it is that your most important priorities are constantly being interrupted by things that feel urgent. Urgency is loud, importance is often quiet. A notification demands an answer immediately. Building a valuable skill does not. Someone else's request may require attention now. Your long-term health rarely sends you an alert. This is why you have to learn to protect the moves that actually change your life. Think about your biggest goals. If you want to build a business, what activities genuinely move that business forward? If you want to become excellent at your profession, what deserves focused practice? If you want stronger relationships, which people deserve your presence rather than whatever attention remains after everything else is finished? If you want financial freedom, which actions improve your financial position instead of simply making you feel productive? You cannot treat every task as equally important because they are not. 10 small tasks can create the illusion of progress, while one difficult task creates the progress you actually need. Checking email for an hour may leave you exhausted, but it may not move your most important objective even 1 inch. Spending that same hour learning, creating, planning, practicing, or solving a difficult problem may produce a result that continues benefiting you long after the hour is over. This is where priorities become more powerful than schedules. A schedule tells you when something happens. A priority tells you what deserves to happen before something else. Without clear priorities, your day becomes a negotiation with every distraction that appears. You should therefore identify the moves that have disproportionate importance. Ask yourself, if I could make only 3 meaningful things happen today, what would they be? The answer forces you to distinguish between movement and progress. Then protect those activities before the day becomes crowded. That protection may require uncomfortable decisions. You may need to say no. You may need to stop responding immediately to every message. You may need to create periods when your phone is out of reach. You may need to disappoint someone who expects instant access to you. You may even need to disappoint a version of yourself that wants to do everything at once. Remember, saying no is not automatically selfish. Sometimes it is how you protect a responsibility that you have already chosen. If you say yes to every request, every invitation, and every distraction, you eventually have no meaningful energy left for the commitments that matter most. Your attention also determines what kind of person you become. Spend enough time consuming anger, and you become more reactive. Spend enough time comparing yourself with others, and you become dissatisfied with your own progress. Spend enough time learning, creating, and thinking deeply, and your mind begins developing those abilities. Attention is not simply something you spend, it is something that shapes you. This is why you should be careful about what you repeatedly allow into your mind. You don't need to know every argument happening in the world. You don't need to respond to every opinion. You don't need to consume every piece of information simply because it is available. Information has value only when it helps you understand, decide, create, or act. There will always be more things you could do, more messages to answer, more videos to watch, more tasks to complete, more people to please. The list will never end. Your job is not to finish the list. Your job is to protect the few things that make the list worthwhile. So look at your life honestly. What matters most right now? What deserves your best energy? What keeps getting pushed aside because something louder keeps interrupting it? Guard those things. Give your best attention to the moves that deserve it. Because your life will eventually reflect what you consistently paid attention to. If you allow everything to compete equally for your focus, the unimportant will eventually crowd out the essential. But when you protect what matters, your days begin to work together. And when your days work together, your life begins to move in a direction you can recognize. Chapter 7. Build rules that make discipline automatic. Discipline becomes much easier when you stop treating every important decision like a debate. If you have to convince yourself every morning to do the work, exercise, save money, study, or keep your promises, you are forcing willpower to carry too much weight. Willpower rises and falls with your mood, your energy, your stress, and your circumstances. Personal rules are different. They give you something solid to follow when motivation disappears. Think about the difference between saying, "I should probably exercise today," and saying, "I exercise every weekday." The first statement invites negotiation. The second creates a standard. Once something becomes a personal rule, you spend less energy deciding whether to do it and more energy simply doing it. Consider Trevor Langley, a 39-year-old regional sales manager whose career is progressing well, but whose personal habits are inconsistent. He often starts strong, then works late, skips exercise, spends more than planned, and tells himself he will get back on track next week. Eventually, he realizes that his problem is not a lack of knowledge. He already knows what he should do. His problem is that every decision remains open for negotiation. So he begins creating simple rules. Exercise before work on certain days, review spending every Sunday, prepare the next day's priorities before bed, and never postpone an important task twice. The rules do not transform him overnight, but they remove many of the daily arguments he used to have with himself. This is the hidden power of rules. They reduce decision fatigue. You don't have to wake up and ask whether you feel like keeping your commitments. You already decided. The decision was made when you created the rule. You can build rules around almost anything that matters to you. You might decide that you never spend money you have not planned for. You might decide that you don't answer serious messages while angry. You might decide that important work happens before entertainment. You might decide that you never go 2 days without practicing a skill you are trying to master. You might decide that when you make a mistake, you acknowledge it instead of creating an excuse. The best personal rules are simple enough to remember and strong enough to guide behavior. They should remove confusion rather than create a complicated system that becomes another burden. But be careful. Rules are meant to serve your goals, not control your life unnecessarily. You are not trying to turn yourself into a machine. Life contains emergencies, unexpected responsibilities, illness, travel, and circumstances that require flexibility. A personal rule should create stability while leaving room for judgment. There is another advantage to living by rules. They help you build trust with yourself. Every time you make a promise and keep it, you send yourself evidence that your word means something. Every time you repeatedly break your own commitments, you weaken that trust. Eventually, you stop believing your own plans because you have seen yourself abandon them too many times. This is why discipline is not really about punishment. It is about reliability. You want to become someone who can depend on himself. When you say you will do something, you want your future actions to support your words. Start small. Don't create 20 rules on a Sunday night and expect to live perfectly by Monday morning. Choose a few behaviors that would make the greatest difference. Make them specific. Make them realistic. Then repeat them until they become familiar. You may discover that the hardest part of discipline is not doing the difficult thing. It is deciding again and again whether you are going to do it. Personal rules remove that repeated negotiation, and once the negotiation disappears, action becomes easier. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What did I decide?" That question can change your relationship with discipline, because successful living is not built from occasional bursts of motivation. It is built from standards you follow when nobody is watching, especially on the days when you would rather not. Create rules that protect the person you are trying to become. Then follow them long enough for those rules to become part of you. Chapter 8. Know when to move and when to wait. Timing can change the outcome of an otherwise intelligent decision. You can have the right idea, the right ability, and even the right opportunity, yet act too early and create unnecessary problems. You can also wait so long that the opportunity disappears. Life rarely tells you which one you are facing. That is why learning when to move and when to wait is one of the most important forms of judgment you can develop. We often assume that action is always better than hesitation. We praise people who move quickly and sometimes mistake speed for courage. But there are moments when rushing is not bravery at all, it is simply impatience. There are decisions that deserve immediate action, and there are decisions that become better when you allow yourself time to understand them. Think about a career change. If your current job is clearly damaging your future, staying forever out of fear may be a mistake. But quitting tomorrow without savings, preparation, or another direction may create a different problem. The better move might be to stay temporarily while building your skills, reducing expenses, researching alternatives, and preparing your exit. You are still moving. You are simply moving strategically. Waiting can be an active decision. When you wait intentionally, you are not doing nothing. You are gathering information, strengthening your position, preparing resources, or allowing circumstances to become clearer. The difference between strategic patience and passive procrastination is intention. Procrastination says, "I don't want to deal with this." Strategic patience says, "I am preparing for the right moment." You can often recognize the difference by asking yourself a simple question: what am I waiting for? If you have a specific reason, such as more information, better preparation, or a known deadline, your patience may be useful. If your answer is simply, "I hope I feel more confident later," you may be hiding behind waiting. Confidence is another area where timing matters. You do not need to feel completely confident before taking every step. Confidence often arrives after you begin, but some decisions deserve preparation before action. Signing a major financial agreement, changing careers, entering a business partnership, or making a life-changing commitment should not be decided simply because you feel excited in the moment. You also need to recognize that opportunities have windows. Some doors remain open for years, others close quickly. If you keep telling yourself that you will start someday, someday can quietly become never. There is a point where preparation must give way to movement. The challenge is learning to distinguish fear from patience. Fear tells you to wait because failure is possible. Patience tells you to wait because something important is still missing. Fear becomes smaller when you move. Patience becomes stronger when you gather what you need. Your emotions can also distort your sense of timing. When you are angry, you may want to respond immediately. When you are excited, you may want to commit immediately. When you are afraid, you may want to avoid the decision entirely. In each case, a short pause can protect you from making a permanent decision based on a temporary emotional state. Sometimes the best move is to sleep on it. Sometimes it is to make the call today. Sometimes it is to spend 3 months preparing. Sometimes it is to walk away immediately. There is no universal timetable because every situation has different consequences. You can improve your judgment by studying patterns in your own life. Think about decisions you rushed. Think about decisions you delayed. Which ones worked? Which ones created problems? Were you too impatient or were you too afraid? Your past decisions contain clues about your personal weaknesses around timing. Remember, you are not trying to become perfectly patient or perfectly decisive. You are trying to become more accurate. Move when movement creates progress. Wait when waiting creates strength. And when you cannot tell which one is right, gather enough information to make the next decision clearer. Life will not always give you a perfect signal. Sometimes you will have to choose your moment with incomplete information. But the more comfortable you become with timing, the less likely you are to confuse speed with progress or delay with wisdom. A good player knows how to move. A great player also knows when not to move. Chapter 9. Turn every loss into a better strategy. A loss can take something from you, but it can also give something back. It can reveal a weakness you could not see when everything was going well. It can expose an assumption that was wrong, a habit that was holding you back, or a strategy that looked good on paper but failed in reality. The difference between a setback that damages you and one that strengthens you often comes down to what you do with the information it leaves behind. Failure feels personal because you are the one standing inside it. You lose the opportunity, the money, the position, the relationship, or the confidence you once had. For a while it is tempting to ask, why did this happen to me? But eventually a more useful question has to take its place. What is this teaching me? That question does not make failure painless. It makes failure productive. Imagine losing an important opportunity after months of preparation. Your first reaction might be disappointment, embarrassment, or anger. You may want to forget the entire experience, but if you examine it carefully, you may discover that you were unprepared for one part of the challenge, misunderstood what the other side wanted, or waited too long to act. The loss then becomes more than an unpleasant memory. It becomes information you can use. This is how you turn a setback into a better strategy. You separate the emotional experience from the useful evidence. Ask yourself what actually happened. What did you expect to happen? Where did reality differ from your expectations? Which part was within your control? Which part was outside it? What would you do differently if you had the same opportunity tomorrow? Be honest without becoming cruel to yourself. There is a difference between accountability and self-punishment. Saying, "I made a poor decision because I ignored information I already had," can help you improve. Saying, "I always ruin everything," teaches you nothing. One statement examines behavior, the other attacks identity. You should also avoid the opposite mistake, blaming everything on circumstances. Sometimes circumstances genuinely work against you. Markets change, people change their minds. Timing goes wrong, unexpected events appear. You can make a thoughtful decision and still get a disappointing result. The goal is not to convince yourself that every failure was your fault. The goal is to identify whatever part of the outcome you can learn from. Think about how experience really works. If you make a mistake and refuse to examine it, you gain pain without gaining wisdom. If you make the same mistake again, the cost increases. But if you study the mistake, change your approach, and recognize the warning signs earlier next time, the original loss begins paying you back. This is why resilient people often become calmer after failure. They stop treating every setback as a verdict. They begin seeing it as feedback. Rejection tells you something. A failed project tells you something. A bad investment tells you something. A broken plan tells you something. None of these experiences automatically define your future. Sometimes the lesson is that you need a different strategy. Sometimes the lesson is that you need more preparation. Sometimes you discover that you were pursuing the wrong goal entirely. And sometimes the lesson is simply that you need to keep going. Don't waste a loss by trying only to recover what you lost. Ask what you can gain from understanding it. If you lose money, gain financial knowledge. If you lose an opportunity, gain better preparation. If you make a poor decision, gain better judgment. If someone rejects you, gain a clearer understanding of what you need to improve or where you do not belong. If a plan collapses, gain the ability to build a stronger one. Your past does not have to become a collection of regrets. It can become a library of lessons. The strongest strategy is not the one that never fails. It is the one that improves every time reality proves it wrong. So when you lose, give yourself permission to feel it. Then study it. Look at the board again. Identify what changed. Adjust your strategy. And make your next move with knowledge that you did not have before. Because losing once may be part of the game. But learning nothing from the loss is the real defeat. Chapter 10. Choose players who raise your game. The people around you influence your life in ways you may never fully notice. They influence what you talk about, what you believe is possible, what you tolerate, how you spend your time, and even how seriously you take your own ambitions. You may believe you are making every decision independently, but your environment is constantly teaching you what is normal. Spend enough time around people who constantly complain, and complaining can begin to feel like a natural response to life. Spend enough time around people who make excuses, and responsibility can start to feel unnecessary. But spend time around people who take their commitments seriously, solve problems instead of discussing them endlessly, and keep growing despite difficulties, and your own standards can begin to rise. Consider Eleanor Marlowe, a 36-year-old commercial property broker who has built a respectable career but has recently become frustrated with the people she spends most of her free time with. Her social circle revolves around complaining about work, criticizing successful people, and discussing what they would do someday. Elena notices that after spending time with them, her own ambition feels excessive. She begins questioning whether she is asking too much from herself. Eventually, she realizes something uncomfortable. The problem is not necessarily that her friends are bad people. Her problem is that she has allowed one environment to become the loudest influence on her future. This distinction is important. You do not need to label people as good or bad to recognize that they may not belong in the same role in your life. Someone can be kind and still not be the right person to discuss your ambitions with. Someone can be entertaining and still encourage habits you are trying to outgrow. Someone can care about you and still be uncomfortable with the direction you are taking. The people who raise your game are not always the people who flatter you. Sometimes they are the people who challenge you. They ask better questions. They tell you the truth when you would rather hear something comfortable. They expect you to keep your word. They celebrate your progress without becoming threatened by it. They don't need you to remain the same person simply because that version of you was familiar. Look for people whose behavior gives you evidence, not merely people whose words sound impressive. A person who talks constantly about ambition but never follows through may influence you less positively than someone who quietly works, learns, saves, builds, and keeps improving. Character is often more contagious than advice. You should also become intentional about the environments you enter. Your workplace, online communities, friendships, professional networks, and daily conversations all contribute to your mental environment. You don't have to completely abandon every person who thinks differently from you. In fact, disagreement can be valuable, but you should know which voices deserve the most influence. Ask yourself a simple question: who am I becoming because I spend time with these people? Not, do they like me? Not, are they popular? Not, have I known them for a long time? Ask, who am I becoming? That question can reveal a great deal. Relationships also work in the other direction. If you want better people around you, become someone better people want around them. Become dependable. Keep your word. Listen carefully. Offer useful help. Encourage others. Be willing to learn. Don't expect your environment to improve while you remain unwilling to improve yourself. And don't underestimate the value of distance. Sometimes you don't need a dramatic confrontation or a public announcement. You simply spend less time in environments that repeatedly pull you backward. You redirect your attention toward people, places, and activities that support the life you are trying to build. Your circle does not determine your destiny. You still make your own choices, but the people around you can make certain choices easier or harder. Choose accordingly. Find people who expand your thinking, strengthen your standards, and remind you of what you are capable of becoming. Be around people who make discipline look normal, learning look exciting, honesty look valuable, and growth look worthwhile. Then become that person for someone else. Because one of the smartest moves you can make in the game of life is to stop asking only, who can help me get ahead? Start asking, who helps me become better? The answer may change the people around you, and eventually it may change the person you become. Chapter 11. Stop trading freedom for appearances. Money can give you choices, but the way you use it can also take choices away. That is why financial success should not be measured only by how much you earn or what you own. A person can have an impressive income and still be trapped by expensive habits, large payments, and the constant need to maintain an image. The real question is not, how wealthy do I look? It is, how much freedom does my money give me? There is a powerful temptation to use money as a form of communication. A new car can say, "I am successful." An expensive home can say, "I have made it." Designer clothes, expensive vacations, restaurants, gadgets, and other purchases can become ways of telling the world who we want to be. The problem begins when appearance becomes more important than freedom. Imagine earning more money and immediately increasing your lifestyle to match it. Your salary rises, so your apartment gets larger. Then your car becomes more expensive. Then your monthly subscriptions increase. Then your weekends become more expensive. Soon, the extra income that was supposed to make life easier has disappeared into a collection of new obligations. You may look more successful, but you are not necessarily more free. Freedom has a different definition. Freedom is having enough financial breathing room to make decisions without panic. It is being able to handle an unexpected expense without your entire life collapsing. It is having savings that allow you to leave a terrible situation if necessary. It is having the ability to say no to work that violates your values because you are not completely dependent on the next paycheck. This is why spending less than you earn is not a boring financial rule. It is a strategy for independence. Every amount you keep gives your future self more options. Money saved today can become time, flexibility, security, education, investment, or opportunity later. That does not mean you should never enjoy your money. Money is meant to be used. A good meal with people you love can be valuable. A comfortable home can improve your life. Travel can create memories. Quality tools can make your work easier. The goal is not deprivation. The goal is conscious spending. Before making a major purchase, ask yourself what you are really buying. Are you buying usefulness, enjoyment, convenience, or approval? If the answer is approval, pause. Approval is one of the most expensive things you can purchase because it has no final price. There will always be someone with a larger house, newer car, better vacation, or more impressive lifestyle. Trying to win that competition can consume your entire life. There is also a hidden cost to lifestyle inflation, dependence. The more expensive your normal life becomes, the more money you need to maintain it. And the more money you need, the fewer choices you may feel you have. You may stay in a job you hate because your monthly obligations leave you no room to leave. You may accept poor treatment because the lifestyle you built requires the income. You may continue working long after you have enough because you never learned what enough means. Defining enough is therefore a financial decision and a philosophical one. Enough does not mean stopping ambition. It means knowing when additional consumption adds little value compared with the freedom it costs. Build financial strength quietly, create an emergency reserve, reduce unnecessary debt, increase your ability to earn, invest with patience. Avoid spending simply because your income increased. Let some of your financial progress remain invisible. You do not need everyone to know that you are doing well. In fact, one of the strongest financial positions is being able to live below the level you could afford while quietly building options for your future. Remember, the purpose of money is not to create a performance for other people. It is to help you build a life with greater stability, flexibility, and choice. So the next time you feel the urge to buy something simply because it looks successful, stop and ask yourself a better question. Will this purchase increase my freedom or increase my obligations? That question can save you more than money. It can save your time. It can save your choices. And eventually, it can help you build the kind of wealth that does not need to be displayed to be real. Chapter 12. Become the person. Opportunities cannot ignore. Opportunities rarely arrive simply because you want them. They tend to move toward people who have developed something useful to offer. A company needs a problem solved. A customer needs a problem understood. A team needs someone dependable. A market rewards people who can create something valuable. This is why one of the smartest ways to improve your life is to stop waiting for opportunity and start becoming more capable of receiving it. You do not have to be the most talented person in the room. You do not have to know everything. But you should become someone who can be trusted with meaningful problems. Learn how to communicate clearly. Learn how to think when things become complicated. Learn how to finish what you begin. Learn how to notice problems before someone has to point them out. Learn how to make yourself useful. Consider Graham Ellis, a 28-year-old supply chain analyst at a growing manufacturing company. Graham has been working hard for several years, but he feels frustrated because promotions seem to go to people who appear more visible than he is. Instead of complaining about being overlooked, he starts paying attention to the company's recurring problems. He learns new software, studies delays in the supply process, and develops a simple system that helps his team identify problems earlier. He is no longer simply completing the tasks assigned to him, he is solving problems that matter. That change is powerful because value is often found where problems exist. If something is difficult, expensive, confusing, slow, or frustrating, there may be an opportunity there. The person who can make that problem easier becomes useful. The person who can solve it exceptionally well becomes valuable. This principle applies whether you are an employee, entrepreneur, freelancer, artist, technician, teacher, or professional in any field. Don't ask only, "What does my job require me to do?" Ask, "What problems do people around me repeatedly struggle with?" Then learn how to solve them. Skills are important, but skills alone are not enough. You also need reliability. Someone with average talent who consistently delivers may be more valuable than someone brilliant who cannot be trusted. Your reputation is built through repeated evidence. When people know that you will do what you say, communicate when something goes wrong, and take responsibility for your work, trust begins to accumulate. That trust creates opportunities. You should also resist the temptation to chase every new skill simply because it is popular. Choose skills that connect to real problems. Learn things that make you more useful, more independent, or more difficult to replace. Communication, sales, analysis, writing, leadership, technology, negotiation, organization, and problem-solving can become powerful when combined with knowledge of a specific field. And remember that becoming valuable takes time. You may learn something today and receive no immediate reward. You may improve your ability for months before anyone notices. Don't confuse delayed recognition with wasted effort. Capability compounds quietly before it becomes visible. There is another important part of becoming valuable: initiative. Many people wait to be told what to do. They complete the assignment and stop. Valuable people often look one step beyond the assignment. They ask what could be improved, what might go wrong, what the customer actually needs, or what problem everyone has accepted as normal. That doesn't mean constantly interfering or trying to prove how intelligent you are. It means developing the habit of looking for ways to create useful results. Eventually, your reputation can begin working on your behalf. Someone remembers the project you handled well. A former colleague recommends you. A customer introduces you to another customer. A manager trusts you with a larger responsibility. An opportunity appears because your previous actions created evidence that you could handle it. This is how you become difficult to ignore. Not by demanding attention, not by constantly announcing your ambition, but by becoming genuinely capable. So invest in yourself, improve your skills, study your field, solve difficult problems, communicate well, keep your promises, take initiative. Build a reputation that gives people a reason to trust you with bigger opportunities. You cannot control when the next door opens, but you can decide who you will be when it does. Become so prepared, useful, reliable, and capable that when opportunity arrives, it doesn't have to wonder whether you are ready. Your work has already answered the question. Chapter 13. Master the pause before you react. A moment can change everything. Someone says something insulting, an unexpected message arrives, a deal falls apart, or a person you trusted disappoints you. Within seconds, your body reacts and your mind begins producing a response. You want to defend yourself, explain yourself, attack, quit, or send the message that will finally make the other person understand. But that first impulse is not always your best move. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pause. The pause creates space between what happened and what you decide to do about it. That space may last 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or an entire day. Its purpose is not to suppress your emotions. Your emotions are real, and they often contain useful information. The purpose is to stop a temporary emotional reaction from making a permanent decision for you. Imagine receiving an email that feels deeply unfair. Your first instinct is to respond immediately and prove that the other person is wrong. You write the entire message, reread it, and feel satisfied with every sharp sentence. Then you wait. An hour later, you read it again and realize that what felt like strength was actually anger. You remove the unnecessary words, keep the important facts, and send a response you can still respect tomorrow. Nothing about the situation changed. You changed your position inside the situation. This is emotional control. It is not becoming cold. It is refusing to hand over the steering wheel. When someone criticizes you, pause before defending yourself. When someone provokes you, pause before retaliating. When you are frightened, pause before assuming the worst. When you are excited about an opportunity, pause before making promises you may regret. When you are disappointed, pause before deciding that the entire future is ruined. The pause gives you the opportunity to ask, what actually happened? That question is more important than it sounds, because events and interpretations are often mixed together. Someone may not have returned your call. The fact is simple. Your mind may immediately add a story. They don't respect me. They are avoiding me. They don't care. They are trying to hurt me. But you don't know that yet. You are reacting not only to reality, but to your interpretation of reality. Learning to separate facts from stories can save you from countless unnecessary conflicts. The pause also allows you to choose the outcome you actually want. Ask yourself, if I respond this way, where will it take me? Will it solve the problem, protect the relationship, protect my reputation, move me closer to my goal, or will it simply give me a few seconds of emotional satisfaction? That last question is especially important. Anger often promises relief. Retaliation can feel powerful because it temporarily removes the feeling of being powerless. But emotional satisfaction and strategic success are not always the same thing. You will sometimes need to speak firmly. You will sometimes need to walk away. You will sometimes need to confront someone, set a boundary, or make a difficult decision. The pause does not mean becoming passive. It means making sure your action comes from judgment rather than impulse. You can practice this in ordinary situations. When you feel yourself becoming irritated, take one slow breath before speaking. When you receive a message that triggers you, don't answer immediately. When a decision feels emotionally overwhelming, give yourself enough time to think. These small pauses train your mind to create distance between feeling and action. Over time, you begin noticing something remarkable. The pause becomes automatic. Instead of immediately reacting, you begin observing. You notice your anger without becoming your anger. You recognize fear without automatically obeying it. You feel disappointment without turning it into hopelessness. That is real strength. You cannot control what people say. You cannot prevent every disappointment. You cannot eliminate difficult situations. But you can become much harder to control through your reactions. Remember, other people may throw the first move onto the board. They do not have to decide your next one. Pause, breathe, look at the situation clearly, then choose your response. Because sometimes the difference between a decision you regret and a decision you respect is only a few seconds of silence. Chapter 14. Multiply your effort instead of just increasing it. There is a limit to how much one person can accomplish by simply adding more hours to the day. You can work harder, wake up earlier, stay later, and push yourself further, but eventually you reach a ceiling. Your time and energy are finite. If you want your effort to produce greater results, you have to learn a different question. How can I make what I do continue working after I stop? That is the beginning of leverage. Leverage means finding ways for 1 unit of effort to create more than 1 unit of result. It can come from knowledge, technology, systems, money, relationships, reputation, or other people's skills. The goal is not to avoid work. The goal is to make your work more powerful. Imagine Sophie Callahan, a 42-year-old independent marketing consultant who has built a successful career entirely around her own time. Her clients value her expertise, but there is a problem. If she stops working, the income stops too. Her calendar is full, yet her business cannot grow without adding more hours. Instead of simply raising her workload, Sophie begins documenting her processes, creating reusable resources, developing training materials, and building systems that allow parts of her work to operate without requiring her personal involvement every minute. The important change is not that Sophie suddenly works less. She changes the structure of her work so that her effort has a longer life. You can apply the same principle to almost anything. If you learn something once and forget it, the benefit may end quickly. If you turn what you learn into a system, guide, process, or skill you can repeatedly use, the value expands. If you solve the same problem every week, perhaps you can create a process that prevents the problem from appearing again. If you repeatedly answer the same questions, perhaps you can create a resource that answers them for you. Technology can multiply effort as well. A useful tool can automate repetitive tasks, organize information, distribute content, analyze data, or save hours of manual work. Money can create leverage through investments when used responsibly. A strong reputation can create opportunities before you even ask for them. A trusted team can accomplish more collectively than one person working alone. But leverage should not be confused with shortcuts. A shortcut tries to eliminate the work. Leverage tries to make the work more productive. Before you can build a useful system, you usually need to understand the work yourself. Before people trust you to lead, you need to demonstrate competence. Before capital can generate returns, you need to earn or acquire it responsibly. This is why skills are powerful forms of leverage. A skill you master can improve your results repeatedly. The ability to communicate well can help you negotiate, lead, sell, teach, and build relationships. The ability to write can create opportunities across many fields. The ability to analyze problems can make you valuable in almost any organization. The more useful the skill, the more situations in which it can multiply your effort. You should also look for repeated work in your own life. What do you do again and again? What problems return every week? What information do you explain repeatedly? What tasks consume hours but require little creativity? These are clues. Repetition often reveals where a system could replace manual effort. There is another form of leverage that is easy to overlook: reputation. When people know you are reliable, your previous actions begin working for you. You may receive an introduction because someone remembers your work. You may get an opportunity because someone trusts your judgment. You may be given greater responsibility because your past performance has already answered the question of whether you can handle it. The point is not to make every part of your life automated. Some things should remain personal. Relationships need attention. Important decisions need judgment. Meaningful work often requires your direct involvement. The goal is simply to stop assuming that more effort is always the answer. Sometimes you don't need to push harder. You need a better structure. Look at the work you are doing today and ask, can this effort create value again tomorrow? If the answer is yes, build around it. Turn experience into systems, turn knowledge into assets, turn repeated work into processes, turn useful skills into opportunities. Your time will always be limited. Your potential impact does not have to be. The smartest players learn that the goal is not to make every day longer. It is to make every hour more powerful. Chapter 15. Become unbeatable at the game that matters. The final lesson is perhaps the most important one. The goal is not to become someone who wins every situation. Life will never work that way. You will make mistakes. Plans will fail. People will disappoint you. Opportunities will disappear. Circumstances will change without asking for your permission. If your definition of winning requires everything to go your way, you will spend your life fighting reality. A stronger definition of victory is becoming the kind of person who can remain standing, thinking, learning, and moving when reality does not cooperate. You have spent this journey learning how to choose your game, define your scoreboard, make your next move, think ahead, Take calculated risks, protect what matters, build discipline, understand timing, learn from losses, choose your environment, protect your freedom, create value, master your reactions, and multiply your effort. These are not separate tricks. Together, they form a way of living. But remember what makes a game unpredictable. You don't control the entire board. You control your decisions, but other people have decisions of their own. You can prepare carefully, but circumstances can still surprise you. You can build a strong plan, but new information can make that plan obsolete. You can do everything responsibly and still encounter a result you did not want. That is why adaptability is one of the greatest forms of strength. When the situation changes, you must be willing to change your approach without abandoning your principles. If a career disappears, you can build another path. If a business model stops working, you can redesign it. If an opportunity closes, you can search for another door. If a plan fails, you can create a better one. Flexibility does not mean having no direction. It means being committed to the destination without becoming emotionally attached to one particular road. You also need to learn how to win without becoming arrogant and lose without becoming defeated. Success can make you careless if you begin believing that past victories guarantee future ones. Failure can make you fearful if you treat one bad result as proof that you are incapable. Both reactions are dangerous. Stay humble when things go well. Stay curious when things go wrong. The person you are becoming matters more than the temporary position you occupy. A promotion can disappear, money can be lost, recognition can fade, circumstances can change, but judgment, discipline, courage, patience, and character travel with you. These qualities are portable. They allow you to rebuild. This is why the deepest form of security does not come from creating a life where nothing can go wrong. It comes from becoming someone who can respond when something does go wrong. Think about the difference. One person says, "I need everything to remain stable so I can feel safe." Another says, "I would prefer stability, but if things change, I will learn, adapt, and find another way." The second person possesses something much more valuable than certainty. They possess confidence in their ability to respond. That confidence is not arrogance. It is earned through experience. Every difficult conversation you survived, every mistake you learned from, every skill you developed, every promise you kept, every setback you recovered from became evidence. Slowly, you begin to trust yourself. And perhaps that is what it really means to win at life. Not to defeat everyone around you, not to accumulate the most possessions, not to avoid every loss, but to become someone you can respect and rely on. Someone who knows what matters, someone who can say no, someone who can act when action is required and wait when patience is wiser, someone who can lose without losing themselves, someone who can succeed without becoming dependent on applause, someone who can change direction without abandoning their values, someone who keeps learning long after the world stops rewarding them for it. You will not always make the right move. You will not always recognize the right opportunity. You will not always understand the rules immediately. That is okay. The game is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to participate consciously. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, keep adjusting, keep your standards high and your ego flexible. The game will change. Let it. You have something more valuable than a perfect strategy, the ability to develop a better one. And when you understand that, you stop needing life to be predictable before you can move forward. You become ready for the game as it actually is, uncertain, difficult, beautiful, unfinished, and entirely worth playing well. Conclusion. The game is already underway. You did not choose your starting position. You did not choose every circumstance you would face. And you certainly cannot control every player who enters your life. But you can choose how you respond. You can decide what winning means to you, where you place your attention, which risks you take, which people you allow close, and what kind of person you become along the way. That is the real lesson of this journey. Winning at life is not about controlling the board. It is about becoming better at playing it. Sometimes you will make the right move and still lose. Sometimes you will make a mistake and discover something valuable because of it. Sometimes the door you wanted will close, only to reveal that you were chasing the wrong destination. Your job is not to demand that life follow your plan. Your job is to keep learning, adapting, and moving with purpose. Think about the choices waiting for you after this audiobook ends. They may not look dramatic. Perhaps it is the decision to stop spending money simply to impress people. Perhaps it is the conversation you have been avoiding. Perhaps it is the skill you finally decide to learn, the opportunity you finally pursue, or the habit you finally stop negotiating with yourself about. Your future will be shaped by these ordinary moments. You now know that you do not need to win every day. You need to keep making better moves. You need to protect what matters, think beyond the immediate reward, learn from your losses, and remain willing to change your strategy when reality gives you new information. And remember this: your greatest competition is not another person. It is the version of yourself that is comfortable staying exactly where it is. Every day gives you another chance to become more disciplined, more capable, more courageous, more thoughtful, and more free. You don't need a perfect life to consider yourself successful. You need a life that reflects your values, a life where your decisions belong to you, a life where your time is invested in what matters, a life where your failures teach you, your successes humble you, and your challenges strengthen you. So learn the rules. Choose your game. Set your scoreboard. Make your next move count. Think ahead. Take the calculated risk. Protect what matters. Build your own rules. Know when to act and when to wait. Turn losses into wisdom. Choose people who raise your standards. Protect your freedom. Become valuable. Master the pause. Multiply your effort. And above all, become someone who can adapt when the game changes. Because the ultimate victory is not reaching a point where nothing can hurt you or nothing can go wrong. It is reaching a point where you trust yourself to handle whatever comes next. You may not know exactly what tomorrow will bring. You don't have to. You only need to know that when tomorrow arrives, you will be ready to make your next move. The game is not over. It is not even close to over. The board is still in front of you. The next move is yours. Play it well.